Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Stu, Stitches, and CT. Thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday evening following Liverpool's 2-1 victory over Southampton on the south coast. Horrible conditions for Liverpool to go and play in again. Rain, wet, windy, the whole lot was all out against us today. But first half domination, second half a little bit shaky. You could really see that the youth was out playing in the second half. But nonetheless, we got the job done with a lot of players playing out of position, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately, it wasn't really unfortunately, because now we've just seen that Wataru Endo can be one of the best second centre-backs in the league. It's absolutely fantastic. Tyler Morton, a little bit shaky at right back. I wouldn't really question it. He was played there out of position, needs must and whatnot. I wouldn't hold it too much against him. He held his own in the middle of the pitch. Harvey Elliott, absolutely fantastic. See him back, bagging a goal with his weak foot. Darwin NUNEZ with a beautiful touch and then a lovely composed finish for the first goal. Federico Chiesa, we finally get to see him in a Liverpool shirt for meaningful minutes. And although he looked a little bit shaky to start, he really grew into the game at the end, I found. Had a couple of good, nice chances, one of which would have gone in only for a block on the goal line. But I'll pass it over to my panel mates and make sure you guys get in your comments into the stream as well, but make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos. Great night for the young boys, says Paul. I agree with you. And Jamie was saying I was impressed with Morton and Leone on the young side, very much so for myself as well. And Boogie Davey saying that he was very impressed with Elliot today as well. I was as well. Stitches, I'll throw it over to you first, my friend. It was a game where this is who didn't travel with the team, by the way. Alisson Becker, Andy Robertson, because he was suspended, Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah, Dominic Szoboszlai, Curtis Jones. Who else didn't travel?
Diaz.
Luke Diaz, Ryan Gravenberch. That's 8 of your possible first starting 11 that didn't travel, and we looked that comfortable in the first half. Obviously, tired legs in the second half, willful youthfulness in the second half as well kind of led us to a bit of some shaky stuff. But how did you view, we'll start with the first half realistically. How did you view the first half overall?
So I was very, very pleased with the first half. I think the majority of us were. Looking at the amount of disruption that had been in that starting lineup, I expected it to be a little bit frenetic. I expected, Southampton to probably have the majority of the game. So to see us come into the game and dominate in the way that we did in that first half was pleasing. It's a really weird game because initially before the game, I was kind of like, if we got knocked out, I didn't care. I wanted us focused on the Premier League and the Champions League. And I was thinking it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if we got knocked out. But as the game went on and we dominated in the way that we did with what would be a shadow squad, I was very, 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 very pleased with the way that happened. And it kind of gave me a little bit more confidence in the season that if we had to make changes and injuries came, we can kind of manage it a little bit better with the squad that we have than what I originally thought. So in that regards, yeah, very pleasing first half, total control. Good to see Harvey Elliott in the pockets, picking the ball up in spaces, trying to create problems. And the young lads that came in, I was just so impressed with Leone. I think he was just so composed, dealt with the physical aspect of the game really well in the first half. Morton, as you mentioned, wasn't in the right position, but did a job for us. And I was just pleased, very pleased with the first half. I don't want to go into the second half because that's not what we're talking about yet, and I'll come back to that. But it was night and day, if I can say that. But yeah, first half, very pleased, comfortable 2-0. Could have been more. I actually thought it was going to be more going into the second half.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It could have been more. It could have been. You could really tell that the youth showed in the second half because Southampton were playing probably their strongest 11 and their strongest team, and they were going for it. So for us and our youth side to come out and perform like that in the second half, it was admirable in a way. I thought Jarell Kwanzaa had a great game. I know some people thought he might have probably had a bit of a worse game, but it's like as Jamie's mentions here, he makes one mistake a match that leads to a scoring chance or a goal. Hope his shoulder is okay. I genuinely think that Kwanzaa was one of our best players today. He was absolutely phenomenal, especially in a different type of a setup. We played a back three at the start of the game, and he was just everywhere. He was like this sweeper center back that was almost Virgil van Dijk-esque in a way, that he just covered everything up. CT, how, with the first half, Stitch has obviously mentioned an awful lot of players and how they performed. How did you find the first half? Was there anything that was negative, or was it really all positive from us in the first half?
Yeah, look, I think it was really all positive. Actually exceeded my expectations. I thought there would be a little bit of rust, but, you know, guys being in different positions. But I think, like, I agree with you with Kwanzaa. I think, you know, what has to be considered is that we're playing on possession a lot more than we used to, you know, and so there's so many more passes. And so you might look at one little error, you know, versus 68 great passes, you know, and everyone wants to highlight one bad pass. But you have to look at the totality, you know, of the entire game. And we absolutely controlled the game on their turf, you know, in the first half, and, you know, limited their chances as well with a makeshift backline as well. So couldn't be any more pleased, you know, with the first half. And I know we'll dive into the second half a bit more, but I just think things changed with the goal like they usually do. I don't think it was like we were poor in the second half. I think the momentum changed once you concede a goal, and that's what generally happens with most football games.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It does. The goal usually, obviously, in the second half, the goal usually leads to momentum. Just to give you a couple of stats on Jarell Kwanzaa, he misplaced 4 passes all game, and he made 96 of them. So he attempted 96 passes, he made 92 of them. He had 4 passes into the final third. He had multiple clearances. He had a big block after Tyler Morton got beaten in the second half. He won 66% of his duels, 3 of which on the ground and 1 of which in the air. Like, I'm not sure what more you could really ask of him. The goal, fair enough. Maybe he could have done a little bit better, but Morton was out of position, came across and cut across him, which allowed Archer to cut back inside, which just had everybody out of position. That goal shouldn't have happened. It was very similar to the Conor Bradley mistake a couple of weeks ago, as I said. Stu, one thing I do think we need to talk about in the first half, however, is Wataru Endo. And Paul mentioned in here he's a super samurai. I don't think I've ever, like, I'm not sure if anybody else noticed this in the game, but I just want to see how many times he was fouled. He was fouled 4 times in that game. He drew 4 fouls. He won every one of his ground duels. He won 60% of his aerial duels. The guy is smaller than 6 foot, and he's doing that as a center back. 2 interceptions, 9 defensive actions, 4 recoveries, won all of his tackles, and misplaced 6 passes all game. That's just absolutely phenomenal from a guy that's played the guts of 100 minutes so far this season, to come in and just drop a performance like that. It really kind of puts a stamp on the fact that, Slot, you've seen me how I can play now, even at a centre back. Put me in the game, coach.
Yeah, I don't think he's done his chances any harm at all. He was excellent that first half. It was obviously it was a different side. Obviously, you mentioned all the players at the start of the stream that were left at home, so there's a definite lack of cohesion and experience going on. But Endo, just again, he's a consummate professional. At the end of the day, everything he goes in for 100%, and that's all that we can ask for. At the end of the day, he's been asked to play centre back, and he's taken to it like a duck to water. And I'm not surprised. In a way, I think he handled that role very, very well. More so, I think, actually, in the second half than the first half. But the way the game flowed and the positions kept on changing, he was that one linchpin that, like, sort of stayed constant. He knew when to go forward and he knew when to come back. There was 1 or 2 moments where I think he went too far forward, but that could be allowed. At the end of the day, it's his first time playing in that position in our team, so I'm not surprised he did well, but I'm very happy that he did do well as well. So
yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah, I genuinely, I had zero doubts in him. Certain people wanted him sold. Certain people think that he's not good enough for this side now. It's what Jesus, Jamie, I wouldn't go that far now. I think he might get caught a little bit on pace, but I think as an emergency centre back option, I think it's a great shout, and I think he deserves more minutes in the middle of the pitch. As he mentioned as well, he's played a lot on the back line for Japan. He really has. I have all the faith in the world, and I absolutely loved when we signed him last season. I was one of the people that said that he was probably got one of the best midfielders in the Bundesliga, and Stuttgart fans at the time were raving about it. He looked like he was playing centre back and midfield in the first half, and at times we were playing a 3-2-2-4. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Jimmy, I just think it's pace. I just think it's pace. He might get caught in the pace if he gets a dribbly winger, like if he got somebody like somebody like a Doku, or I know Doku doesn't really have much of an end product, but he can get around you and he creates those cutback passes. Unfortunately, I think center back is way better for him. I think it's, as you said there, the endo sweeper. He could be very good in that role, or he's the new Millie. I wouldn't be mad at that at all. He was absolutely superb today, and I really think the man needs to get his flowers. Anybody that says he wants to get him sold, it's just I don't know. I don't know what I don't know how you can watch that game today and want to lose him as a player. The man is in his 30s and he's playing across a back line with guys in their early to mid 20s, and he's outperforming them. And even though, and it was a backup line, Chiesa mentioned here with a little bit of WD-40 still looks rusty. He grew into the game fantastically. There was no balls coming down his side at the start when he first came on, and then they started to go down his side a little bit more. Had two beautiful cutbacks. One cut inside with a left foot shot, probably would have gone in if not for a block on the line. The other one was, I don't know if it was a shot or he tried to cross it. Maybe it was a bit of both and he kind of snapped the decision. But it would have gone wide if it was a shot, but it would have been a great assist because Harvey Elliott was maybe half a foot away from it. But we'll move on to the second half now. But before we do that, make sure to like and subscribe. Have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out as well. We've over 2,500 people watching here across YouTube and Twitter. So make sure to jump over to our YouTube channel and give us a like and subscribe there while you're there. We'd really appreciate it. Stu, I'll come back to you and we'll go back around the other way this time. The second half, as Stitches mentioned, was a bit night and day. You could really see in this. So in the second half, this is who we brought on, just out of sheer curiosity. So we brought on Tsimikas in the 46th minute, Chiesa in the 46th minute, obviously to start the second half. Then James McConnell came on, then Jota came on, then Dans came on. We took off Cody Gakpo, we took off McAllister, we took off Trainioni in the last couple of minutes. Trent and Gomez, the two most senior players on the team in regards to time spent on the team, probably outside of Kelleher, were taken off at halftime, and that's the two big ones in your back three straight away that are or your back four that are taken off. Then obviously you lose your center attacking midfielder in McAllister and your left winger that's really creative in Cody Gakpo, and that's all before the 70th minute. So it's not really surprising that on the 59th minute, after Southampton get a goal in the 59th minute through Archer, through just a little bit of a mistake from Tyler Morton coming back to play right back and cutting across Jarrell Kwanzaa. You could really, really tell that youth was a big part of this. But to come away with a win while having so many of your first team basically sat at home on the beer watching the game was fantastic.
Well, like we said before at the start of the game, 8 first-team players left at home. 3 other first-team players taken at half-time. So by the time the second half, we haven't got our first-time starting 11. So it's no wonder it went a little bit disjointed in the second half. I'm not surprised that it did. Actually, the mistake came from Endo, of all people, who had obviously a great game today, but it was his pass into the central part of midfield. Debatable whether the referee could have stopped the game, actually, because he did get clattered in the face. Is that class as a head injury or not? I think that's up for debate a little bit. But then again, it was a good finish by Archer as well. And it did make us a little bit ropey for, I'd say, probably about 5-10 minutes. But then we settled back into the game and took control of it. And we really should have had another 1 or 2 goals by the end of the game.
Yeah, and both of those could have been either an assist or a goal by Chiesa in both instances.
Yeah, and I think NUNEZ is actually guilty a little bit of not getting his head up a little bit more as well, because there was a couple of chances there where he could have passed it on, but it is what it is. The main threat throughout that second half was, I mentioned it on the last Southampton game as well, was Onuachu. Jesus Christ, that guy is huge. And when you get him up against Endo, it's like a night and day sort of thing. It was quite amusing watching it. I'm glad Kwanzaa actually took over and sort of went to man mark him instead, because it was just a complete mismatch. He's a handful, but I don't think we were ever really in trouble that second half. No. Besides that 10-minute period after their goal. For the rest of the time, our youngsters still managed to take control. The only person I'm actually disappointed that didn't get on the pitch was Rio Naguma. I was hopeful that he'd actually get a few minutes, but it's just the way it happened.
To be honest with you, the reason if it stayed as 2-0, or if we had gone, if either one of Chiesa's chances had gone in, either the assist that he might have gotten off Harvey Elliott for his second.
That's what I would have expected. Yeah.
If we were still up by 2 on 70 minutes, I guarantee you Rio would have come on. It's just purely Slot was probably like, okay, game management, little bit ropey here. We've got hit with a haymaker. Let's, regain our feet and let's get back into it. He's 16 and he's in the first team already, as in regards in the squad, and travel for a Carabao Cup game. He has a very bright future ahead of him, and he has all the time in the world ahead of him.
I think that's definitely worth a mention. I mean, comes in the summer from Chelsea at the age of 16, zips through the under-18s and under-21s into the first team training after, 4 months?
Yeah, thereabouts.
There's got to be something there.
There is definitely. I have no doubts about it. CT, with the second half, who would have been, of the people that came in, who was it that came in? So we had Dans that came in, we Costas, we Chiesa, we McConnell, and we Jota. Out of the substitutions that came in, was there anybody that really stood out for you? How did you feel about Chiesa's first couple of minutes?
Yeah, look, that was the one that I was the most, sort of keen to see Chiesa and just impact the game. Like, my expectations weren't super high, like some, in terms of coming on, dribbling past players and, slotting it in. I was expecting to see him hopefully just get some supply, and run up and down the wing and show his feel for the game, little 1-2s, get forward. And I think we saw that, we saw that in the last 10, 15 minutes. He tracked back really well. He showed, he's got the fitness up. One of those ones he forced a turnover for a throw in and got the ball back. But yeah, his first 10 minutes were pretty shaky, I got to say. But we know he's not a physical kind of player, and definitely the conditions. And he was clattered into a few times, which isn't, pleasant in your first few minutes. But it's a welcome to English football moment. I think he'll take confidence from it now. Hopefully. Yeah, we'll probably talk about it, but we'll see, some interesting selection headaches for a semi-final now with, Slot reports saying he wants to prioritize the seniors for, for the Champions League and the Prem. But who really stood out to me the most out of the guys that came on? James McConnell. I think he was really in the engine room, the thick of the midfield, and he, had a nice turn where he showed some skill on the ball. I thought he picked out really good passes as well. He just went under the radar, just like he did in the Carabao Cup final last year.
Yeah, I completely agree. He only played for 27 minutes. He had 20 or 24 passes. He had a couple of block shots. He had a couple of clearances. He played his part in the defensive side of it. He won all of his duels as well. He had a fantastic appearance in it. And to your point about Chiesa, he grew into the game, and the lofty expectations that some had of him, if his first pass was a couple of inches to the left and his second shot was a couple of inches higher, we're looking at Chiesa having come on for a half and has a goal and an assist. So there's a very, very, very bright future ahead for that player here, and he showed it in bunches, I think, in this game. I'm very, very, very happy with him. Stitches, the second half, the young guys came on. It was very much a youth team in the second half. Obviously, some complacency stepped into it, but in the end, we got the result, and we've seen it out. Who impressed you the most in the second half, realistically?
Yeah, to be honest, I was impressed by Chiesa when he came on because my expectations, just the same as CT, were quite low. And what I liked was his directness. I liked the sharpness that he showed. There was one move where he's tracked back. He's under pressure from two players, and he's done a cheeky little nutmeg to get out, and then link play to get possession back for us again. And I just think absolutely right. He needed those minutes. He needed some of those tough tackles coming in just to, acclimatize him to what to expect. And it's all good playing games behind closed doors or playing youth games and training, but you need to be forged in the heart of battle. And I think those minutes may prove invaluable. But he definitely looks like he's got a lot to offer, and he started showing a lot more of that as the game went on. I thought he was a threat in the transition. I like the way that he was linking with the other players around him, and I think I could just picture him with our first team players and really seeing that we, probably cause some devastation moving forwards. But it was always going to be one or two things. Southampton were either going to capitulate or they were going to come at us. And they just lost their manager. And why we keep playing teams that just after they lose their managers, which obviously
let's not jinx it now. Spurs are playing tomorrow night against United. If they lose and Ange gets the sack, I'm blaming you.
Okay, yeah. Let me wash my mouth out with that. I don't want to make no comments on that. But it was gonna be one or two things. And I think, look, what didn't happen was that Southampton didn't come out second half and out tactic us. That definitely didn't happen. What did happen is that they got amongst us a little bit more. They got quite physical. They made it a physical battle. And when you talk about our first team players not really being on the pitch, our senior players not being and a lot of youth, they went out there to bully us second half. And I think we coped with it quite well. I think it was quite reasonably well coped with. And as you mentioned, McConnell coming into the midfield and just ticking the play, getting on the ball, being brave, taking the ball on a half turn, a couple of turns where he sent his man the wrong way and then just link play again. I think, again, all of these things are great experience for our players. They showed us these players are actually ready, to come up and help when necessary. They may not be the first choice, but we can definitely trust them to come in and do a job. And that is refreshing. And, for them to get through that victory, I think it's gonna be invaluable to a lot of them. But yeah, second half was a bit more painful to watch. Did I panic? I think the commentators have this knack of making me nervous with their commentary. It's not if it's like watching Jaws. If you've ever watched Jaws on mute, it's not as scary as when you watch it with a sound on. And that's how I feel about some commentators. It's like they start saying things to try and create a bit of jeopardy, to try and create a bit of angst. And sometimes, just sometimes, I'm susceptible to falling for it. So as we were going into the last few minutes and they put up the board with 6 minutes extra time, and Southampton crowd was getting up and they were starting to get a few set pieces and corners coming in, it did make me a little bit anxious. But really and truly, towards the end of the game, we could have ran away with it with a number of chances that we had, and we were catching them on the break. And there were pockets of when we just decided to keep the ball and we just, moved it around and just diffused the game. And I think that is the difference for me between Slot and Klopp, because with Klopp, and I love him, genius, but that anxiety would have carried on all the way to the end of the game. Right. But with Slot, you get a feeling that when the game goes like that, he's got the answers to just diffuse it and regain control. So I was a little bit nervous, but not really nervous. But the second half was a little bit more painful to watch, but to be expected.
Yeah. It was, realistically. Paul here mentioned it, obviously, with Spurs being so Spursy and consistently inconsistent, and then playing tomorrow, I would be very confident for Sunday. Given that they're playing tomorrow and they have to put out a full-strength team, or whatever their full-strength team is, Bentancur is missing, Udogie is missing, there's Van de Ven is probably missing as well from Sunday. There's a number of different players that are missing from Sunday that we really should be going and taking it to them. but watch them turn up and play absolutely unbelievable on Sunday, because that's just what teams do against us, as you see today.
He's chewed out Timo Werner. This is basically either killed whatever confidence he had left.
Yeah, basically. Just looking at the first and second half statistics. So, first half, Liverpool had 73% possession. They allowed 0.08 expected goals, and they created 1.05 expected goals. We scored 2 in that half. Harvey Elliott's goal was 0.14 expected goals, and Darwin Núñez was, I think, like 0.62 or something like that. We'd 7 shots, 3 of them on target, and 1 big chance. That big chance was Darwin Núñez's. Southampton had 1 shot and 1 shot on target. They made 99 accurate passes in the first half, Southampton. Liverpool made 316. That was total domination in the first half. Second half, little bit different. Their expected goals was 0.24. We had 64% possession. Expected goals was 0.61. They had 5 shots, 3 of them on target, and 2 of them were big chances. Obviously, one of them was a goal. We had 7 shots, 1 on target, and 1 big chance, and 1 big chance missed. Passes, however, 129, which is 81% accurate, to 255. Again, killed them with passes. And then across the whole game, we had nearly double the amount of passes. Actually, I lie. We had more than double the amount of passes, and we were nearly 90% across the whole lot of them. It was an absolute domination when you look at it from the numbers perspective. Little bit shaky, obviously, in the second half, as we mentioned, but nonetheless, we got the victory. We'll go around and we'll ask for everybody's man of the match. I'll give you my one. It was Wataru Endo. I'm pretty sure everybody else will probably go with a similar vein of thought. If not him, it'll be Harvey Elliott, because he was everywhere too. Put your man of the match into the comments as well. We want to see who your man of the match was as well. We want to make sure everybody gets their say in it. Stitches, who was your man of the match?
Endo all day.
Yeah. CT, you?
Yeah, it was definitely Endo, but I think, toss up with Harvey. Harvey got the goal as well, and great to see him get minutes now. And he's really, I think, going to work his way back to last season's form now after coming back off a huge layoff. I mean, he was away for a long time, was Harvey, and he's a quality first team player for us, and a player that we can bring off the bench, change games. I think he's going to be huge in the second part of the season, and obviously, Chiesa hopefully can run on now.
Yeah, definitely. And what's mad about it is with Chiesa, both of his chances, his near assist and his near goal, came from him cutting in on his left. He's a right-footed player. Like, he's fantastic on the dribble. Stu, who did you have as your man of the match?
I'm going to go Endo. Like the rest of it, I think his performance deserved it. But I do want to reserve a little special mention for Tyler Morton. Actually, I think out of all the youngsters, he's the one that impressed me the most, especially being put into a right-back position that he's never played before. I don't think he'd done too badly there. He was never going to be an exciting, pacey wing back. He's definitely more of a fullback style player, but I think he deserves a special mention. I think it's only his second game of the season, and he did very well for me, actually.
Yeah, a shout out is deserved for him. Now, the only thing I would say is he didn't win any of his duels, but look, that's what you'd expect from a fullback. They're just meant to be there to challenge. 7 defensive actions, couple of clearances, couple of interceptions. 88% passing accuracy. He had 84 touches in the middle of the park, and obviously from right back as well. A lot of stuff went through him.
Definitely a centre mid, not a right back.
100% a centre mid and not a right back. That much was very, very evident.
Well, it's just the same as Leone being a centre mid and not a right or left winger.
Exactly. And Leone played absolutely fantastic as well. Poor kid looked gassed by the end of it. But look, if he needs those minutes, he's a 17-year-old kid. I think it'll stand to him.
And seriously, how skinny is he? It's ridiculous.
He'll hit his second puberty by the time he hits 18.
Do you guys think that, with the semi-finals now, do you think the road ends now for these youngsters in the fairy tale, or do you think there's a world where they're going to get any more minutes?
I hope not.
I think they'll get more minutes. To be honest with you, I think today kind of showed, in my own opinion, Slot, to your point that he was on about the report, that he's really focusing on the Premier League and the Champions League, there is a massive opportunity that Liverpool could do a double this season. I don't see anybody who beats us in the Champions League when we're at our best. I don't see anybody that beats us in the Premier League when we're at our best, especially with our best 11 out there. And we have Konate to come back, and Tsimikas is going to get back up to speed. We have Robertson that'll be able to come back in and cover as well, as much as people don't like that. Who else do we have to come back that was missing? Who was missing? Bradley has to come back and can cover as well. Was there anybody else that was missing from today's game that was injured?
No,
that was it.
More fitness.
Allison's going to get fitter as well. Kelleher, I think, deserves a shout out as well for his saves. He faced 0.82 expected goals, and he prevented minus 0.18, obviously. So it would have been, because one went in, he basically would have prevented, if that goal didn't go in, about nearly a goal in that game, which is nuts. But it's very promising to see that these young guys can be gone for so long, come back in and just perform like they never left, and especially with Taro Endo. We will see the youngsters again in the FA Cup as well against Accrington Stanley. And McAllister is back as well from his cards. He had his nice 2 weeks off. I thought he had a great game too. Kept control in the midfield. Wasn't really involved in the first 15 minutes, but then kind of grew into the game a little bit more. And I think it was a great game to blood him back in before facing against Spurs at the weekend. But guys, we are going to leave it there. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Just nearly about 4,000 people watching us across YouTube and Twitter. If you're currently watching over on Twitter at the moment, make sure to jump over to our YouTube channel and like and subscribe if you can, please. Really would appreciate it. Have your notifications on for all future streams and videos too, so that you never miss out. We will be back again tomorrow from 7:30 p.m. UK time. Make sure you're around for that. But until then, for myself, Stu, Stitches, and CT, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
See you later.